So I was listening to this morning. This is old The Bish and Kieran, the world's worst radio breakfast show. It's Kieran and The Bish. And The Bish, this is actually quite a long clip, and it goes for like some time. I'm just trying to see my notes where I wrote it down. But I know it definitely goes for a few minutes. Oh, God, what have I done? Okay, we're just going to go for it. I know I'm in the right starting point. I can't find where I wrote down. Oh, I will, because it's on an email. That's right. I did work upstairs today, Chewy. Yeah. It goes for like 6.5 minutes. It goes to 7. I'm going to write it down so I don't have to look again. 7:17. So we may not get through all of it because that's quite a long time for us to watch something like 7 minutes or 6.5 minutes. But the reason was it went from one salient point to another salient point to another salient point. And there was one particularly salient point. It was a bad point that Bish made in the middle, talking about how not many people would miss out on getting a home. That I think we need to delve into a bit deeper. I thought about it this afternoon, and I think we just need to go a bit deeper on that, because the question is, of those not many people who are going to miss out, what demographic are they? The ones who are going to miss out, even though it's not many. Who are the ones that are going to miss out? So let's have a look at the conversation this morning. Daniel Faitaua talking to It's Karen and the Bish about housing and getting rid of the first home buyers grant.
And if I'm honest, that's how people are feeling. You've really killed home ownership for them. What's your
That's just gentle in there. You've killed, it's dead.
response?
Well, respectfully, I haven't killed home ownership. The first home grant, on average, provides $5,000 towards a deposit. So it brings forward people's purchasing of a home, but in the vast bulk of cases, it doesn't actually make the difference. It's $5,000. If you look at what a deposit is, a 20% deposit on your average house, $5,000, yep, does it make a difference? Of course it does. Would people rather have $5,000 or up to $10,000? Of course they would, and I fully acknowledge that. But I think it's a bit of a stretch to say we are killing home ownership, and there's been a bit of quite extreme rhetoric.
Minimising that to just a ridiculous degree.
Yeah, well, ironically, he said right at the start what we're going to go into. I've written it down over here. It says, for the vast bulk of cases, it won't matter. And that's true, right? For the vast bulk of cases, it will not matter. But for the ones it will matter to, they're the ones that need it the most. Remember, we talked about this last night, and we were like, oh, they're not going to vote for you. And you're a bit like, I don't know, National Party, they won't be very happy about their kids not getting this. And I'm like, those are more likely to be able to find money elsewhere. Mum and dad will be able to help out. Uncle, grandparents, whatever, will be able to help out. That's how it rolls. Whereas the vulnerable and the lower socioeconomic ones are the ones that will be hit by it. And just completely coincidentally, over on TV3 tonight, so remember, this is Bish's position. The vast bulk of cases, it won't matter. Well, here's one where it does.
The Housing Minister has promised to review a case which saw a solo working mum lose her $10,000 first home grant for a house she was due to settle on next month.
Her first home grant had been approved but lapsed as the settlement date was pushed out. And when the government decided to immediately scrap the grants, she was left with a $10,000 shortfall. Political editor Jenna Lynch has the story.
So the vast bulk of cases, it won't matter. But here's one where it does. Solo mum, struggling, 2 jobs, saving, needed something to get across the line. And when we go back to look at Kieran and the Bish, you'll hear Kieran talking about it's sometimes not that difficult to get to the line, but to get over the line is where the grants come up. We'll keep watching this.
Shanae has been working and saving hard to be able to buy a home, and she was so close. It's right there, nearly ready.
I had already signed my contract in March and was really just waiting for it to be ready.
The contract is with the New Zealand Housing Foundation, a charity that partners with people through a shared ownership scheme to get them into their first homes. Shanae's settlement date had been pushed back to June. She had her finances at the ready, but last night she got a call from the foundation. The first home buyer grant was being discontinued. $10,000 of her deposit gone.
It's an awful way to find out. I was so shocked, and I called my mum and I was crying on the phone to say, how am I going to make this work?
A solo mum of 2 kids, getting to this point has been a slog.
I mean, at one stage I was working 2 jobs.
Here's the thing as well, right? the Bush has said, oh, we'll look into that case. Dude, there are going to be numerous cases like this. This is the one solo mum who probably either went, yeah, fuck these guys, I'm going to call News Hub, or it's the one solo mum who someone at News Hub heard their story from someone who heard on. I'm not saying there's going to be hundreds, but you can't make this policy and go, yeah, we know it's going to hurt some people. It's a bit tough. And then when it hurts some people, you start to go, oh, well, I'll have a look at that. Because what are you going to do for the next one that comes up? Oh, I'll have a look at that too. No, you've made your bed, Bishop. You've said that this is going to impact some people. We're sorry about that. And then when you get bad fucking press, because it's impacting some people, you try and pull back a bit and go, yes, we'll have a look at that one. What about the other dozen that are going to be like this, for whatever reason, have got approved and then had it taken away? How about the other 100 or 200 that were about to put their application in like days away and now can't? You can't have it both ways. How often do we say this? If you want to be hard asses and say, this is going to cost a few people and we're sorry, we know it hurts, then when you get bad press because it's costing people, you can't walk it back. I mean, I actually hope you do walk it back because this woman needs it, but you can't walk it back politically. We're not going to let you, Chewy.
No, not at all. Remember, $178,000, really easy to overlook. $57,000 on a new office. You know, that's like just part and parcel. It's work that needs doing. You know, his accommodation supplement, you know, he's entitled to it. $5,000. Realistically, $5,000. Most people wouldn't even notice. You know, $5,000 such a small amount of money. You know, don't worry about the fact that it might get you over the line. Don't pay any attention to the fact that compounding, it adds up to fucking tens of thousands of dollars eventually. Ignore how much that money grows in capital gains when someone's asset grows and matures.
Yeah.
Just ignore the fact that this would be someone's first major asset that is so key to everyone's retirement, when we know that these same guys want to move when we retire. Change how we access super, because they're all sorted. Don't you worry about them. But these people will be renting until they retire. Will be renting in their retirement. It's going to be a fucking disaster.
Yep. All right. This has got about 30 seconds, and then we'll go back and see Kieran in the Bush.
To get rid of debt. I've always been a worker. I've been studying as a solo parent, and it's been a 3 to 4 year plan to get to this point, and it's awful to have this now potentially be ripped away.
She simply didn't see it coming, and no one did. Christopher Luxon told News Hub on the election
We're not letting this go either, Luxon.
campaign he wouldn't do it.
Would you abolish first home grant?
No.
But now,
Well, we have to make some tough choices.
Is this a broken promise?
100%.
And remember what we said last night, and I put this out as a clip today, we have to make some tough choices. When they look at the pain point, they're looking at fucking solo mums who are struggling to get into a home. That's where they're choosing to have their pain point, as opposed to the $2.9 billion going to landlords. So they could take that 2.9 to 2.65 billion and they could fund this fully, because it's $250 million over 4 years. So they could fund this and still give landlords 2.65 billion. But no. They need the full 2.9, and the pain point comes to the fucking solo mums and the young couples trying to get on the property ladder.
So let's use this woman as an example, right? So they've ripped a house away from her. Depending on the age of the kid, well, they put school lunches. She's not getting as good at school lunches. Her childcare costs have gone up. Public transport costs have gone up.
Yep.
There are so many ways that this government is going to shit on people in her circumstances. Landlords, fat and happy. Mining companies, fat and happy.
Yeah, we'll get to that tonight. This is apparently got 6 seconds to go.
100%. And you can add it to the list.
Can people trust you?
Absolutely.
Why?
They can trust us to actually get the job done.
They can trust us to get the job done.
What's the job? What's the job that you're trying to get done?
A dividend return to our funders. That's what it is. So I wanted to come out of the breakfast show, because when Bish said, remind you, that the vast bulk of cases it won't matter. He's being correct. Like National so often is giving you the first half of the sentence. $10 billion to Kāinga Ora. They don't tell you about the $25 billion worth of assets that purchased, but they'll give you the first half, and then they won't say the second half, which is, but those ones who will get impacted are the most vulnerable in the country. They leave that part out. So I want to make sure everyone's you clear? We all clear? You clear? You clear in the back row? Good.
Had to make some tough decisions in this budget. We've had to make some tough choices, and this is one of the tough decisions we've had to make to reprioritise.
Just remember, reprioritising money away from solo mums. Landlords getting a golden goose, the golden egg. So we just got to remember that. At least I'll give them credit for being honest. They are making tough choices. The thing is, they're just putting their knee on the neck of the vulnerable again. If you are one of these people in the group that are being impacted and you voted for them, I hope you realize how you've had the wool pulled over your eyes just because of something ridiculous, culture war, mandate, whatever it was for you. I hope you can see quickly the warnings that came.
I've just come up with another one. Three Waters is gone, so all the councils are increasing their rates. Landlords will need to pass those costs on, which of course is is that the downward pressure on rents?
Absolutely.
No, is it the opposite thing? And remember, we're only getting that because everybody wanted to do it. Big fucking racism.
Yeah, Three Waters bad. Three Waters bad. I'm going to vote National. What do you mean? What do you mean? All these things that they didn't promise us, all the things that they did promise us, they didn't. What do you mean? Yeah. Welcome to the real world.
The money to social housing to some of our most vulnerable New Zealanders who need a warm, dry home. So
the math on that does
fully
not
acknowledge,
work.
as you showed from your people emailing in, it's not going to be popular with everyone. But
no, also not popular.
Sometimes not about doing what's popular; it's about doing what's right.
And I get that.
That line there, I think we should clip. It's not about doing what's popular; it's doing what's right. Because this isn't what's right. But if they're going to use that as a catch cry for this, I'm sure there's going to be times in the future where they're going to do what they think is popular. No, like a referendum, for example, and not what's right. But in this instance, it works for them, he thinks, and so they use it.
And Kieran had posted up on social media a quote back in September 2023 where media put to Christopher Luxon, would you abolish first home grants? And Christopher Luxon responded, no. So what has changed?
Yeah, well, it wasn't our policy to.
What's changed is before the election, Chewy, what's the one thing they were trying to fix?
The fact that they weren't the government.
So what's changed is now they're the government and they don't have to abide by them. Yep. So in other words, the one problem they were trying to save to fix pre-election, they have fixed, and that's what's changed. So now they can do whatever they want.
Abolish first home grants, but we've had to make some tough decisions in this budget, and we've got to fill in the gap in housing funding around social housings and reprioritise the expenditure. So as I say,
Chris
tough
Bishop
decisions.
is a good thing. I mean, I praise that's great, but could we not have both?
Yes, is the answer.
Well, government is about choices.
Yes is the answer.
And, this is a very tough budget to deliver. And when you look at what the first home grant delivers.
Again, he's right. Government's about choices. Landlords over solo mums trying to get onto the property ladder. Look, let's agree and credit. He may not want to word it like that, but he's right. They're making choices. They're making choices for landlords, multiple property owners, lots of people within the National Party themselves over solo mums trying to buy their first home. Easy choices.
For the bang for buck, I think most reasonable people would say, yep, actually putting the money into social housing is a more important use of that money.
That's not
Kieran,
what you're doing.
What's going through your mind?
He's seething.
I lost sleep over this last night. I was lying in bed and I was thinking about it because just like you, I've been receiving emails from people that are saying that now they won't be able to meet their deposit. They're not making this up. This has hurt their plans, and these plans have been years in the making. And when you're saving for a deposit, you don't start thinking about it at the end of the process. You start thinking about it at the start, and you bank things in like your KiwiSaver and the first home grant.
Get him.
And you make decisions at elections based on promises that people make. And when Christopher Luxon says they're not going to scrap the home loan grant, that's a guarantee to New Zealanders that they've now walked back on. It's a broken promise and it's hurt people. It means that it will delay their chance of buying a home. at least by a year. And if house prices go up more than wages go up or their ability to save, then it'll be longer. And any tax cuts.
Oh, preach, Kieran. So let's spell that out for you in case there's one person at the back with their thumb up their nose who doesn't quite get it. So to save up the $5,000 is $100 a week. Most of these people who need it can't do that anyway, right? But let's just say they could. So they've waited for another year. They've saved another $5,000. In that period, the house they were going to buy has gone up by $80,000. And so now they still can't get the 10% deposit through. So it's not just about the right now. It's about the what won't be able to be done in 12 months from now because they haven't saved enough to stay at that 10% mark, and on and on and on. And this is obviously a bed bug for Kieran because he talked to us about it, and he is just on point. And what's that meme from The Simpsons? Stop hitting him. He's already dead.
They get from the budget won't compensate for the fact that they are, in some cases, they've lost their chance of thousands of dollars, which would get them over the line. And anybody that's had to save for a home knows that getting to the line, they can do, but getting over the line, given all the different circumstances that have to be considered and them being able to put a deposit, that's the hard bit. And that's why this home loan grant was so important to these people, and now it's gone. And I think it was a cynical move, because to present it as we're reprioritising money into social houses, and of course we've always advocated for funding of social houses. We've been asking the government to do that for 7 months because community housing providers have been cancelling projects because of that funding uncertainty. But
we're clear on that, just in case you missed Kieran with us on Monday. So the government's not giving these social housing organisations a certainty but past 2025. So some of these social housing groups are actually stopping building and stopping their future plans because the current government is not giving them certainty around funding. So they're saying, we want to work outside Kāinga Ora. We want these agencies and charities to be doing it for us, but then they're not actually giving them the certainty they need to be able to do it for them. So they're actually saying one thing that they're going to do, the charities and the entities that they say are going to do the work are saying, but you haven't helped us. We can't do it unless you give us X, and they're giving them snot or something like that. Just to make that perfectly clear.
the level of funding for social housing compared to the previous years of funding has gone down. So that's been hit, and first home owners have been hit. But I tell you what hasn't been hit, that's the $2.9 billion tax cut to landlords.
Yeah.
If Chris is talking about tough decisions, why not take some of that and fund both?
Chris, answer that one.
Yeah.
Well, the tax, they're not tax cuts for landlords.
Oh, I wasn't listening. Sorry, I wasn't listening. What was that?
When it comes to rental properties, and there's been a lot of misleading nonsense out there around this. This is a position.
This is bullshit as well. Like, he's going to say they're not tax cuts, right? Which, whatever. The reality is it's $2.9 billion coming out of the coffers going somewhere that wouldn't have tax cuts, tax returns, inflation, rebates, whatever you want to call it. The reality is it's $2.9 billion coming out of the consolidated fund that is no longer there, right? So whatever we call it, if people are using the wrong word, it doesn't matter. It's 2.9. It's basically a gish gallop now. He's going, well, it's not that. You haven't dotted that T over there. It's not quite the right pronunciation. Well, Kieran's bish gallop. There you go. There's a nice one. It's actually Kieran's actually saying you're giving all this money, you're allowing them to take this money, whichever way you want to do it. That if you weren't, could be used for solo mums to buy their first house after working 2 jobs for a very long time.
That was the law until 2022, when the Labor Party decided to remove the ability of landlords to deduct interest as a legitimate expense on rental properties. We are just going back to what the law was prior to 2020, actually. It was standard orthodox tax principles and tax law. We've made some tough decisions in this budget around social housing. I fully acknowledge some of what Kieran is saying. He's completely right. It will hurt some people in the sense that they will have to wait longer, but we're retaining the first home loan scheme, which allows people to pull together a 5% deposit, and it's essentially mortgage insurance on the balance between the 5 and the 20%. That's underwritten by the government. That scheme, we are retaining. That helped 3,500 New Zealanders into a first home last year. So there is still support out there. The ultimate answer to all of this, and I suspect Kieran wouldn't disagree on this, the ultimate answer is to make housing more affordable. First home grant, $5,000 on average. Yep, of course, people.
And again, Kieran, just the hits keep on coming. So Bish now is saying, right, this is the answer. Rather than the first home buyers grant, the answer is making housing more affordable. Kieran knocks this one out of the park.
We're not going to say no to it if it's there. But actually, it's a very small percentage of the overall deposit that people have to pull together, and it's a very small percentage of the overall house price. The ultimate answer is to drive down land costs, drive down the price of housing so that it's more affordable for everybody, not just first-home buyers as well.
Kieran, would you agree?
I would agree that ultimately, yes, we do need to make sure that house prices are at a level where people can realistically afford them, but they're not here yet. They haven't been for a while. And the time to consider whether a first home grant is still required is when you have provided that supply. I don't think that argument's going.
So in other words, National is saying the answer here is to get prices down. Okay, so leave the home grant in place and do what you're promising and get prices down and then take it away. That's what Kieran's saying. Right? So Bish is saying this is the objective, to drive prices down. Cool. So how about you do that first, and then the home buyers grant won't be needed. But they want to have their cake and eat it too. They're getting rid of the home buyers grant, and they're trying to promise this thing that will never happen. Because do you know there's lots of people who work in that big beehive-y shape place, who own lots of properties, who sure as fuck don't want the value of those properties to go down, because that would eat into their portfolio. Do you really honestly think that Christopher Luxon, 7 homes owner, and anyone else with a portfolio of houses wants the price of their houses to go down? Do you really think this government is going to work against their own best interests? Of course they're not, because house prices aren't going to go down. So Kieran is completely right that they should do that first and then cancel the first home buyers grant, but they're not going to do that. So they're just cancelling it anyway, Chewy.
It's diabolical. He's minimizing. It's just $5,000. It's not. Once again, this is a government that is so laser focused on the short term.
Yeah.
They have all the tools to solve this. And they don't. It's not a problem they want to solve. It's not a problem that they care to solve. Fuck them. I assume that that's going to be printed on the very top of the budget book when they hand it out. Fuck them kids. Yeah. Right on the top. Like, well, it's
hang on. You said fuck them kids on the top. Do you mean on the top of the document or
on the top of the document? Yes.
Okay, just checking. Phew. Yeah. Lucky.
Yeah. Look, Bish doesn't care about those. $5,000 doesn't mean fuck all to him. It doesn't mean anything to his boss. It doesn't mean anything to their fucking donors. Like the amounts of money that they are able to write off going, it's inconsequential. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, they have changed people's lives here, and they are taking away a tool that was, even if it made a small amount of difference, it made a difference to a fuckload of people.
Yeah.
I got into my house in a timely fashion because of that. And for the homeowners in the chat, I guarantee you all did too. And I guarantee you, if you start asking around to people that you know that are in the market, how many people are affected by this, how many of them are going to remember that in 3 years? How many of those people being affected now walked into a ballot box and you went, there's not a lot of difference here. Maybe it's time for a change.
Yeah, hate that. Hate that.
Like they always say,
yeah,
they didn't promise it would be good change.
Yeah. Yeah. And remember, often the equal and opposite is true. When people try and say it's time for a change, the equal and opposite to that is better the devil you know. Both have equal validity for your next voting block. All right, let's get to the end of this.
Is when you have provided that supply. I don't think that argument's going to wash. People don't want an economic lecture about what is good or bad public policy. What they want is promises that they were made to be kept when they banked that in their considerations for saving for a home. We support the government's bid to increase housing supply. That should be bipartisan. I'm sure we will have some discussions around the margins, but we need to do whatever we can to increase supply. But while that supply is still lacking, for God's sake, keep helping people buy a home.
There you go. Succinct, to the point, spot on. I think you can see that this is going to become an absolute passion for Kieran McAnulty, because he seems genuinely pissed off. Like, I don't know if you thought at the start of that, when he started talking for the first time, he seemed genuinely pissed off, which is so he should be. Great.